Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. We've taken the show on the road. As you can tell, if you're watching the live stream, that is not sticker with a cause sign behind my head. If you know what that is the Empire States Building. Me and my best friend, Ken, we're down here in the city. It's NYCC. I got my classic NYCC shirt on. So we're going to make our rounds for the next couple of days. So if you find us down in the city, let us stop by and see us. You'll know where we're at. We'll be walking around Artist Alley and everywhere else at the show, trying to find Pizza Rat because I'm hungry and our train just got in a little bit ago, so we may have to go do those things. But we brought with us today let's see, all the adjectives I can come up with: a verbal wizard, a master of the written word, a pugilist of the punctuation.
Whoa!
Like that one.
A wordsmith of words.
A wordsmithy of wordsmithing. All those things. And I don't have my soundboard, so we'll have to just give you claps on our own here. We have James Qualres. Yay! So I don't have my soundboard. This is so weird to not have. Say, and we're already starting to lock up on things and do all that. So. But Dylan, welcome to the show, bro.
So glad to be here. Thanks for having me. You guys been looking forward to this one for a while.
Probably took forever to get to it. Now, folks, if we start to cut out or any of those things, just bear with us. Like I said, I'm working off a hotel Wi-Fi. Dibs is working off of two squirrels making out in a sock. And I don't know, Dylan's the one that looks professional, but I will say that your mic shaft there looks like a lacrosse stick. Is that a lacrosse stick you're using?
I might have made some sort of modifications to a lacrosse stick. I'm working on
it. It really.
No, it's like
I don't even. It really looks like.
No, I will say this though. It was like, I think it was an iPad stand that my wife got. She's a teacher. She got it for the pandemic when everything went remote and she had to teach from home. So she had an iPad set up on this stand, and then I kind of got into like guesting on podcasts, and I was like noticing all the videos on TikTok. They always had this like rig, where it's like hanging in front of your face, like you see here. And what I had before was like a shitty little microphone stand. And so I was like, I know how to use a screwdriver. So I started Frankensteining these two things together. So this is like part iPod stand, part podcasting mic, and it looks like a lacrosse stick.
So not only an author, but an inventor, an inventor of.
Dude, I'm a straight up Renaissance man over here, you guys.
I was gonna say it's the professor from Gilligan's Island.
I'll take it.
Run with it. So, but let's get some house cleaning done here, folks, as we do in every show before we get going. Obviously, you see up here next to me, we got my co-host Dibs hanging out with us in the land of the lost, up in the Yup in Michigan, hanging out.
Oh shit, you're in the
anything
UP?
New on? He is in the UP.
Hours south of the UP, yeah.
Oh man, I'm so fascinated with that area.
It's called Canada.
Hey, you know where I'm at. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. That's basically, when I walk at this one beach in my town, I get a text on my phone that says I'm now in Canada. That's how close. I like look across at it.
So I completely sidebar. I worked for Amtrak, and when we would I would take the train, and I worked in Niagara Falls. And I can't tell you how many times I would have to call the phone company and be like, take this charge off my phone. Right. I was not in Canada. I didn't make an international call. Well,
so we're basically three almost Canadians then.
Almost.
Yep.
Hey.
Okay.
Hey, I'm almost
Hey.
So let's get into this, folks. As always, I don't have the big board behind me, but for sticker and a cause, as we always say, you reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, even our email. It's all the Above the Bar podcast. Send me a message. Let me know what you're supporting. Maybe you've got your own book that you're writing and you've got a sticker for it. You've got a podcast that you're supporting, Girl Scout Troop. I don't care what it is. Send me a message. I'll give you the address where to send it. And we'll put that up on the big board and you'll get a little free advertising. We'll throw that up there for you. Also, though, if your media looks like it's been asleep for about 15 months and you need to go ahead and upgrade that, make sure you reach out to Media by Dibs. That's that guy right next to me. Reach out to Media by Dibs, and if you contact him and let him know that you're belling up to the bar, he's going to give you a 10% discount on your first media order and a free consultation. You can find him on Instagram and Facebook at Media by Dibs, and if you go ahead and go on to LinkedIn, you can find him at Andrew Dibble, Dibble. Look, no S at the end of that.
No S.
No S, because I always seem to want to add an S to it for dibbles and bits.
Dibs
But
and
reach
bits.
out to Dibs and Bits. That's how you can find him on Twitch, is at Dibs and Bits. So all the house cleaning is done. All that's over with. Mr. Dylan, sir, how are you?
I'm doing super well. In fact, I'm doing so well that I'm going to crack open a nice Freem Pilsner. That's Freem with a P. If they're listening, I'm available.
What is a Freem? So I like a good Pilsner. So what's a Freem?
It's a brewery out of Oregon. And they're pretty hot right now, like, because I'm in the Pacific Northwest. We do a lot of craft beer out here. I mean, everybody everywhere does craft beer now, but like, we like to think we were a little bit ahead of the game with that. But Freem is out of Oregon, and they're kind of taking this area by storm. They do IPAs that don't like just totally taste like cat piss. I love an IPA. I mean, but you know what I mean? Like we're now like 10-15 years into the IPA kind of craze, and some people are getting burned out, some people being me. So Freem kind of came along, and they're doing some nice stuff with beers, let's just say that. But I figured if I drank like too many IPAs while I was recording a live episode, I can't be responsible for what's going to happen, so I opted for the pills.
Yeah, we take left turns all the time, so couple IPAs, man, we're going down the dirt road. Like
you never know what could happen at that moment. Well, it's funny. So I'm in Albany right now, and we've got some amazing Vermont beers. Like Vermont kind of leads. I think Vermont really leads the charge with a lot of those things. But Albany itself is doing well with it. But you're up in the Pacific Northwest. You have my favorite Hefeweizen in the world comes out of there.
Which
Pyramid.
one? Oh Pyramid. Yeah, that's a classic. Mariners with a team, they are the team. Hey, go Mariners, right? Everybody's. Right. But like right across from Safeco Field, I don't even know if it's fucking been renamed. It might have been. But right across from the field used to be Pyramid's brewery, and they moved.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like everybody used to go to the brewery first, get their drink on, and then hop over to the game after. It was like the coolest thing ever. And unfortunately, I don't know why. I think it was something maybe COVID related, pandemic related, but the brewery has since closed up shop and maybe moved somewhere else like South or Soto or something like that. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Pyramid myself. I'm down with their hef. I'm down with their apricot ale. I don't know. I don't usually go in for like fruity beers, but something about like a stone fruit and like a dried stone fruit kind of works with a beer, right? It's like not too intense fruit flavor. Anyway, beer talk.
See, I can do beer talk all day long too, but yeah, that's definitely, and that was actually, and Dibs will appreciate this one. So it was another Marine that when I was on active duty, probably, I'll tell you right now, the first time I had that one was 1999, 2000. And that was when they were still microbrews, not craft beers.
Right. Yep. Right.
And the best part about it was this was a Marine that stopped drinking at age 20 because he knew he was an alcoholic at that point.
Ooh.
And stopped drinking. And it was like, he knew it was time to stop drinking when he tried to throw his roommate out of a window in the bathroom in Okinawa. And the problem is the bathroom windows are like
tiny.
1 foot by 1 foot by like 10 inches, like these tiny windows. And he's like, I tried to throw the guy out. And he's like, yeah, it was time to stop drinking.
More like tried to
But he knew all the good beer. Yeah, but he knew all the good beer still. And it was like, fair enough.
But it's Okinawa. There's nothing better to do than to
try to throw
windows. And, yeah.
Oh, we lost the Dibs.
The squirrels must have stopped.
The squirrels stopped. But Dibs will be back on, and I'll bring him back in a second. So I want to kind of get into your book. So 8 books down. Yeah. Number nine's on its way. You've got The Marsh. Had them all up. I got my screen just went down for me. Nope, you're not allowed to tell me all of them because I'm going to bring them all back up. So you have The Ruins of Mars, The Ruins of Mars, Walking Titan, Eyes of the Apocalypse, The Man from Rome, which is the thriller.
Yeah.
3B Monsters.
There Be Monsters.
There Be Monsters. Stand by. They just sent me a message. The Secret History of Port Townsend, volumes 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
And then the Quantum Biography of Steve Kubacki. How you pronounce his last name? Kubacki?
Kubacki. Or Kubacki. Kubacki is how I say it, and he's never corrected me in all the years we've known each other.
So, and that one, and folks, we're going to kind of skirt around some things because I really want you to read that book. That book and that story about his life and his situation is probably one of the wildest things. Definitely has like the only thing missing is a lump in his wrist that ends up with a computer chip in it,
right?
Or something weird along those lines. But I guess I kind of want to get into what I mean. Most people, like I said when we were posting, you write one book and you're excited.
Yeah.
You've written, coming up on number 9. Were you always a writer kid? Like I have a son who spells his name Dylan. We spelled it the same way.
All right, the good way, the only way. Yeah,
not Dylan.
Not Dylan.
It's Dylan.
It's with a Y. Come on now.
And him and his buddies used to like write comic books and put stories together. Were you that kind of kid? What got you? What got you into writing like that?
Well, kind of like your son. So I grew up in a family of storytellers. My dad is like a prolific storyteller, and I kind of learned from a young age how to, hold that audience the way he could do it. And I started doing comic books in like high school. I was like late to the reading game. Weirdly, I have a little dyslexia, and so I was late to reading. But once it clicked, I totally was like, okay, now I've arrived, and I'm gonna like read everything I can get my fucking hands on, including shit that like little kids shouldn't read. But my parents were just so stoked I was reading. They were like, go for it, kiddo. So around high school, though, I started making comics. I had this like series of comics. I was like thinking about this the other day. It's funny you bring up your son does that. He does comics because like back in my day, me all of 36 years old, I'm fucking ancient over here. But like I had a book. I'd do the comics in this one book, and then I would circulate the book. It would make its rounds through the high school, get passed from person to person. They'd read it, and then it would come back to me. And when it come back, when it came back to me, that meant it was time for me to do the next edition of this comic that I was doing. It was like an ongoing. It was like a spy comic. It was kind of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, James Bond. But the characters all kind of look like The Simpsons because I was watching a lot of Simpsons and James Bond at the time because I was a high school boy. So like that was like my first taste of like entertainment. Like, oh shit, I'm entertaining people, and they're like people that maybe don't necessarily like talk to me or know me personally, read my work and like it enough to not like vandalize it or you know what I mean? Right? Like they return it.
It didn't come back to you with dicks on everything.
Exactly. No. And they didn't change any of the spelling. Like, I mean, this I'm kind of still mad about. Like nobody corrected any of the spelling errors. So that's fun. But whatever, So like
it never made it to the English teacher.
Well, if it did, she didn't say anything about it. She must have liked the plot or whatever, or the art. And it was like graphically violent. Like I think about like that nowadays, like in today's climate, and like obviously Columbine had already happened. Not to get dark, by the time I was in high school, like shit had already been hitting the fan in terms of like violence in schools. But I lived in a small town, and so maybe people were just cool with it, or maybe no one ever showed any teachers. But this was like pretty violent stuff. Like, but it's like comic book violence. You know what I mean? It's not like a manifesto or anything creepy. So that was like my first kind of taste with like, okay, people like what I'm doing in terms of storytelling. Then I got into filmmaking because that's what you do when you're in high school and shit is fun and you have a lot of friends around. You can call them up, say, hey, I want to meet me here at this time. We're going to do this. I got a costume for you. You're going to be a vampire, whatever. And I had a little core group of friends. We'd make movies together. We'd write the scripts and everything. And one of our movies made it into the local film festival. And that was kind of like the high watermark for me in terms of like filmmaking. I never really did like get above that. I had a couple of college films that I directed and produced and wrote and edited and shot. Everything short of fucking being in it because I had to actually film it. So somebody else had to be in them. But like I loved that whole process, like creative storytelling and all that. And I loved having a big premiere. People would come. That's how I met my wife. She came to one of my movie premieres in college. It was like a zombie movie. She said I looked cute in my suit.
Aww.
I did look cute in my suit. I know. She wrote it on my MySpace page to date myself again.
Yeah. Was she in your 5? Like she was in the circle?
She was in the circle, so she could say that sort of stuff on MySpace and get away. She posted a picture of a bonobo masturbating because this was the internet, children, before Zuckerberg, when you could do stuff like that.
You could get away with just about anything.
You could get away with just about anything you wanted to on MySpace.
Do you remember how great it was when MySpace added music? But then you would go through
fucking God. Yeah.
But you would go through people's pages so angry to figure out how to cut their music off.
Like where's the mute button?
Because it was so loud.
And you could like customize the page. So you could like, it wasn't always in the same spot. You know what I mean? Like where the music player was, you could like move it around. So like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to hop onto his page and go right over here and mute it. It's like, maybe he buried that shit way down over here or something, you know? So it was so fucking annoying, but cool at the same time. I honestly miss MySpace. Tom, if you're listening, we miss you, man. Come on back.
Yeah, that guy. I saw something, not to go make a left here, but I saw something not long ago when he sold that guy's into real estate or something now, worth about $64 million. You know, he's not on that Zuck. He's not on that Zuck money, but that
Zuck money's not good for you though. That Zuck money ain't good for you. That's how you get turned into like a lizard person or something, man.
I'm okay. I think I'd be okay with that. I think
with Zuck money.
Yeah, like I'm willing to take the challenge. I'm willing to accept that challenge.
If somebody wants to give you like $250 billion, you'll take them up on the challenge just to see if you retain your humanity after all said and done.
You know, like, do I understand my humanity? Like, would I be willing to be in a small room in a hotel in New York City just to walk around a comic book floor with other dorky people like myself? You know, would I be still willing to?
Or would you be hunting human beings on like a small island in the South Pacific, you know? Because they do that, folks. The rich, they hunt us. Don't ever forget that.
As long as I don't go to the Epstein side. I mean, we're good.
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't know. We don't know what they were doing on that island. They could have been hunting people.
They could have been. So your wife's, you know, you're making these films. Your wife jumps in. I didn't mean to make a left on you there, but so she jumps on. Where do we go from there?
I graduate college, as you know, the inevitability. And then the recession starts to stack up there. It's like 2008-ish. My wife and I, she was my girlfriend at the time, we both jet to South Korea to teach English. This is how I know about tiny windows in East Asia, by the way. Your Okinawa story, South Korea, the bathrooms, tiny windows as well, my friend. Tiny, tiny windows. So
Busan, were you in Busan?
No, but I've been to Busan. Great place. No, we were in a town called Mokpo. It's in the south of South Korea, right at the bottom of the peninsula. It's sort of like the jumping off point to like the hundreds of islands that are all around the southern tip of South Korea that nobody knows about, because why would you? They're like so tiny. Like some of these islands have like 5 people that live on them or whatever, and like a lot of pepper farms and cool shit out there. But so we were down there in the south, and we're teaching English, and it's a pretty lucrative gig, at least at the time. Like, in terms of like your rent was paid, you got a pretty decent paycheck. They gave a portion of that paycheck to you in cash, so you immediately, you know, were just spending it everywhere. It was cheaper to eat out than to buy groceries because the government subsidizes bars and restaurants. It's a cool thing. Our government could really like learn a thing or two in terms of like subsidizing restaurants and bars. Like number one with the bullet here, you don't have to tip in South Korea because the workers are just paid a living wage. So that's nice. You know what I mean? Like you feel good, they feel good, everything's good. But so we were out, you know, drinking and hanging out and doing all that fun stuff. And I was really loving it, but I was definitely missing being creative. And I didn't have like a network of creatives around me because it's all like expat English teachers. And all we did was really just like drink a lot. So when we got back from Korea, it's full on recession time. I get a job doing facilities maintenance. That's how I know how to like MacGyver this whole situation. This is how I know my way around a screwdriver, ladies and gentlemen, because I did facilities maintenance for like 10 fucking years. I was a property manager for a mental health nonprofit, which I could tell you some stories.
Oh, I'm about to say that. Now I know where you get your material for your book.
Yeah, exactly. No, like seriously, like a good chunk of the names of my characters come from like real life people that are, yeah, they're institutionalized. So I don't think they're going to be able to come after me for using their names,
Yeah,
but we'll see. I won't tell you which people. That's how I'll stay safe.
That's how you stay safe from it.
Yeah. So I'm like working this job. It's like a good job. It got me through the recession and everything. But I was like just dying creatively. I wasn't doing shit. And I was like lamenting to my wife one day because she figured out her shit. She's smart. She's like, I'm going to go back to college. I'm going to become a teacher. And so I'm like, well, what am I going to do? And she's like, figure it out, Dylan, basically, in a very polite way.
in a very momly way.
In a very mom. Well, we were having it over beers. So, you know, it was like,
figure it out, Dylan.
Figure it out, Qualres. And so I'm like, all right, fine. I will figure it out. You know, challenge accepted. I start toying around with this idea that I have because I've always been obsessed with like the whole idea of like the pyramid on Mars ever since I heard about it as a kid. And then I saw all the footage. And I mean, like, I'm low-key an Ancient Aliens guy. Like, you could check me out on other podcasts talking about that at length, to the point that it's probably off-putting, but it's a thing I like. So like I start toying around with this idea about ruins on Mars and how would that affect like our concept of, you know, whatever and our place in the universe, and what would a mission to explore those ruins look like and all this stuff. And I'm like, why am I like doing this daydream if I'm not going to like do something with it? So one day at work, I just pop open Google Docs and I just start writing. And I haven't like written anything in years and years, like since like college. I had a guy who wrote screenplays and I'd punch him up kind of. So like even then I wasn't doing a ton of writing because I was focused on the sexy stuff, like, you know, framing shots and all that. And I just started writing this, getting my Stanley motherfucking Kubrick on. I just start writing, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I thought what I was writing was like groundbreaking. Like I seriously had like unironic conversations with friends like, oh, I'm pretty sure I'm going to win a Nebula Award for this. Like, which looking back, it's like cringe, but you know what? I'm going to own it. So, but fuck if people didn't like that book though. You know what I mean? Like people were like, when I put it out, I shopped it around to agents, The Ruins of Mars 1, and I didn't get many bites, and I didn't really understand how that whole system works anyway. Basically, if your last name isn't the same last name as a famous celebrity, they don't give a shit who you are or what you have to say. Talking to you, if you're listening, agents, knock that shit off. You're losing great storytellers to self-publishing because you just want to go with famous people's kids, and it's honestly shameful. So shame on you. Sidebar. But I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna self-publish this thing. We'll just see what happens. So I self-published it. Ruins of Mars 1. I had absolutely no expectations, and it just fucking blew up. Like it just started going like bing, 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 like downloads. And I hadn't actually started writing the second book in the trilogy yet, because I just kind of wasn't sure what to expect. And all of a sudden I'm getting like emails from people, because back then I had my actual email listed. Like now it's like I've kind of like, you know, covered that up, and I've got like dummy email accounts for people to send hate mail to and other things and solicitations. But like,
look here, no way that would happen on Mars. I would not.
Hey, we want to know what's happening
here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, for real. We joke, but it's, yeah, these people, they do write me crazy things. Someday I'll put that all in a book. That's what you get for writing me. But yeah, so I'm like, oh shit, I better get started on the second. So I do the second and I do the third kind of like back to back, like, and it just like really took off. And once that happened, I was hooked. It was kind of like getting back to that old high school thing of like, I'm putting stuff out, it's going around and it's coming back to me. Only now it's coming back to me in the form of like reviews on Amazon and sales. And I started a Facebook page, and then people would like join the Facebook page that I hadn't, like, you know, when you can go and you'd be like, invite all your friends, and they all hate that when you do it, but you do it anyway. Like you invite them to like your page. Well, I'd have people that were like jumping on, liking the Ruins of Mars Facebook page that I never met. And they searched it. They typed that in without me telling them to on Facebook because they had read the books. And that was kind of scratching that old high school itch of like, people like your story structure. They like your storytelling, your characters, whatever. They like the violence because the Ruins of Mars is super violent. Like it's heady, it's metaphysical. It's historical. It's got all kinds of cool shit going on. But like at the end of the day, people fucking die gruesomely because I love that kind of storytelling too. And like that was it. I was done. I was hooked. I followed it up, Man from Rome, super violent, really fun. I love Rome. And I just kind of kept going from there. There Be Monsters, which you did briefly mention. That's my most recent novel, my last novel. I guess the Kubacki biography, which I've co-authored, hasn't come out yet. It's making the rounds to agents. Again, the whole issue of not having, my last name's not like Spielberg or Busey, or I don't know why I threw Busey under the bus, that poor man. But, I don't have a famous last name. So it's like, but it's making the rounds. It will be coming out through a traditional publishing. But like, yeah, the last novel that I wrote, though, There Be Monsters, that's the one that won me a Best Indie Book Award. That was like, okay, I've arrived. Like, not only can I post those sales, because Ruins of Mars have sold like 100,000 copies. That book just sells itself. I do very little with that book. It just goes. Every day I wake up, I check my Amazon reports, and it's just chugging along. And I love to see it.
That's awesome.
I know. And There Be Monsters was like total shot in the dark, very out of left field. We'll see. And that one won a Best Indie Book Award. And I was like, okay, fuck. And so now I've got the validation of like people like writing me personally emails and stuff saying, we like what you do. Please do more. I got the reviews, the sales. Now I got the award. I'm like, okay, I could finally like ease up on myself a little bit. Just kidding. I can never ease up on myself. That's why I'm cranking out more and more short stories and stuff like you mentioned, The Secret History and all that.
See that, and folks, as you're listening to Dylan talking and letting us know the books and where they're coming from and all that, make sure you're going on to djqfiction.com, Delta Juliet, Quebec Fiction.com. That's where you can find us up. That's where all the first 8 books are listed at. That's where the links to be able to purchase the books, download the books. I guarantee you, if you send him $100 and ask him to sign one, he'll sign it for you. He promised me this earlier. He said for $100, he will even put lipstick on and put a lipstick print in the book and send it to you. I'm completely lying right now, but I figured
he's not
listening to
he's
Dylan.
Not lying. He's not lying. We had this discussion.
It's
cherry red
right there. And he just did the whole cigarette move, so he might even grab a cigarette and roll it on there, and you can have that too, whatever you need. So, but all these books, and I want to talk about the book with Steve a little bit to kind of get into that, but you've mentioned a couple of times super violent.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you drawing that from? Is it just movies maybe that you watched, or is there something that, because normally you hear these people talk about, I had this rough childhood upbringing, this, that, and the other. Where does it come from?
Yeah. Well, I had a pretty not rough upbringing. Let's just say that. My parents are pretty supportive. I use the word pretty, and I'm just going to leave like a pregnant pause after that. They're pretty supportive, mostly supportive. But I do,
Honey,
I do
is this
write.
hobby done with yet? So that you
I know,
get
like,
a real job.
Oh man,
real job.
I know. I love my parents so much, but I did have one of them tell me that I could write a great American novel if I just. They came right up to saying, leave all these churlish things behind, but they didn't. So, I'm giving them a pass. No, I mean, I grew up watching I mentioned it earlier, James Bond, but like really, like I think the eye opener moment for me was like, it was a kind of a doubleheader, the Paul Verhoeven doubleheader. It was RoboCop. It was Starship Troopers. And
great movies.
Seriously. Someday people in internet land, Stamper Cinema podcast, we're going to be talking about Starship Troopers. I'm saying that now to pressure him to have me back on to talk about that fucking movie, because I love that movie. Super
amazing movie,
incredible movie, super influential for me. It was this idea of like maximalism, which I talked about on the Stamper Cinema podcast. This idea of like almost like over the top, like there's like this difference between like really like gut wrenching, like real life violence, like which you as former Marine. Like, I'm not trying to cause people to have like bad feelings or flashbacks to terrible times or like to relive trauma. I'm trying to entertain you. And there's a kind of violence that's like so like almost like borderline detached from reality that it's entertaining. But like in a story setting, like as long as it adheres to the reality of the story, like you could still get the emotional gut punch of like having a character die in a violent way without being like grossed out or like frustrated at the author for being like basically disrespectful by killing a character in like a really gruesome, grotesque way. Like I don't like revel in violence. Like I don't give you like 2-page descriptions of somebody getting shot to death or whatever, but like violence is in all of my books, and it happens in a way that's like a little bit explosive. Like it's a little maximalist. It's
Quentin
a little
Tarantino.
bit. It's a little Quentin Tarantino. It's a little Paul Verhoeven. Like, you know, in RoboCop, when somebody gets shot, they don't get shot. They get turned into orange pulp. You know, like they get turned into, they get juiced. And when it's sort of the same thing. Like The Man from Rome is probably my most violent book. It's urban fantasy, which is an existing phrase. Like that's an existing genre. I didn't create that. I like when I tell people what it is, I say it's a mythological thriller. It's a thriller. It's like a spy thriller set in Rome, but there are immortals and there are Greek gods and there are elements from Greek mythology that turn out to be real, but it's like worked in a little bit of a sci-fi way, because I am a sci-fi guy still, where it's like we're not saying like they're not like literally gods, right? They're just like interdimensional beings or something, you know. It's sort of like leave that up to your interpretation. But that book is pretty fucking violent, because there's like a whole part of it that has to do with these like mercenaries, and they're waging, you know, they're attacking the main character, and they come in public and they are very violent, and they've got all these guns and all this stuff. It's like a really violent book, but even that, it isn't, it's like RoboCop violent. It's like Starship Troopers violent. It's like the world that's created for the book isn't taking itself so seriously that when the violence appears, you need to take it really seriously.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's there to entertain you, not to minimize violence, not to say violence is entertaining, but sometimes it is, because like we're all a little bit Roman at the end of the day.
We all watch sports.
Yeah. So
how many
like
times did you rewatch the Miami Dolphins, to whatever his name, Tua Tagovailoa?
I saw that on TikTok.
Getting his bell wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting you've brought up the differences. You know, I understand exactly what you mean when you say, you know, that Starship Trooper. You know, if you read Stephen King's Misery, when they describe the lopping of the ankles in that, it's not done with a sledgehammer; it's done with an axe. In the book, and it's very descriptive. So I know exactly what you mean. And I don't know if you knew this about Starship Troopers. That is actually on the Marine Corps Commandant's reading list. Is Starship Troopers.
Wow, that's crazy, because Heinlein, the author, that book is a little fascist. I've read it. Was a deal with my parents. They were like, you have to read this book before you can watch the movie. Again, they were just like, read anything because you're reading. Oh my God. Then the movie was new. And so I read the book, Starship Troopers. I gave my parents my little kind of 10-minute report on it at dinner. My dad rented the movie. We watched it right up until the guy gets his brain sucked out by the brain bug. And then my dad said, I'm turning this shit off, which he didn't know that there was only like 3 minutes left of the movie at that point anyway.
So he was fine with the
all that other stuff. Yeah, all that other stuff
is
totally fine. No, it was the brain bug. It was one toke over the line.
That's so great. Like, of all the scenes in that movie, that was the one. Not
that was
the guy's arm being melted off or any of those other things.
I think he was redlining, like that was like the meter was getting, and then that was just like over. But he didn't realize like that
3
was
minutes
it.
Left.
There was like nothing
right there.
You're right at the end. I mean, he did. So he went to bed. I popped the VHS, because this is VHS times, back in there, you know, when everybody had gone to bed, and I watched the end of the movie. I was ready to watch like another hour, because I thought I had no concept of how long movies were. And then it's like, it's over right after that. I was like, oh, damn it. Oh, well. Okay. Well, good movie anyway. And I since have rewatched it like a dozen times, and I will probably watch it another dozen times more before I'm in the ground. Stamper, Andrew, if you're listening. I've read the book. I've seen the movie. The book I was surprised by it.
How great is the book, though? How much did you love the book? I love the book.
I liked like 3/4 of the book. And it's funny because I listened to an interview with him that was part of it was like an audiobook, Cards on the Table, because this was when I was working for the mental health nonprofit. I would binge audiobooks because I was working with my hands all day. And I'd put one earbud in, so I had the other ear to like listen, because you got to be aware of your surroundings. You know what I'm saying? When you're working around a certain population, and you got tools and sharp instruments everywhere. So I binged tons of books at that time, and Ender's Game was one of them. And one of the neat things about some audiobooks is they'll include like interviews from the author and other neat things as like supplemental, material. So Ender's Game, the audiobook that I listened to, it had an author interview at the end, and he talked about how it was a short story that won him some awards. And then he was approached by publishers after winning these awards for his short story, and they said, turn it into a novel. And so he did. But by the time he was turning it into a novel, he was seeing the potential and the future of that world that he was creating. And so he started to incorporate into his novel. I just burped. Sorry. He started to incorporate, it's the Freem. Guys, if you're listening, Freem, get the bubbles. Let's get them just right in the middle.
Balance them out.
So like he starts to plan out his next several novels in the series, and it makes it into Ender's Game, which was just a little point of frustration for me. And also I'm a massive hypocrite, and I recognize this. The Ruins of Mars 1 and 2 end on cliffhangers that go directly into the next book. So like I recognize the whole like hypocrisy of saying I don't appreciate a setup in a book, having done setups in my own books. I get it. Don't tweet at me. Don't send me hate mail. If you do, I won't read it. But like with the end of Ender's Game, like the last like quarter of it is like the beginning of a different book. And that's why I say I like 3/4 of Ender's Game. I like the beginning, I like the middle, I like the most of the end, and then there's that tacked on bit, which is basically the setup for the next book in the series.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you're good. You're good. I'm gonna sip my beer.
I was just curious. Like I'm listening to all this. So, we always hear, English class, as a kid, this is a writing process, this, that, and the other. Do you have a process? Or do you need to be barricaded in, or like you said, you just opened up a Google Doc and you went at it? What? For somebody who's out there right now who's saying, I got a book in my head, I want to get it written down. What's some of the advice on a process?
Well, I can tell you how I do it, and it's not going to work for everyone because I've heard I've been at this now like over 10 years, and I've done writing workshops, and nothing takes the wind out of your sails quicker than in the first 5 minutes of a writing workshop, having one of your participants tell you the way they write books and it being better than the way you write books. And you go, fuck, I'm supposed to give you like a 6-hour course on how to write a book, and you got a better process than me. All right. But I like to do what I call sandbox writing. I also like mystery box writing. So a lot of box metaphors here for my writing, but like a good example before we jump into sandbox, a good example of a mystery box style of storytelling or writing is the show Lost, where every question that you answer brings up 2 new questions. So that's how you keep the reader going. You keep the mystery going. You keep deepening their investment in the story, because every time they get an answer, they've got more questions. So you satisfy, and then you introduce another itch that needs to be scratched. So Ruins of Mars is just totally full of that kind of mystery box storytelling. The difference between the Ruins of Mars and Lost is I knew where I was going, and I got there. Lost had no idea where they were going, and by the end, they sort of just like fucking limped across the finish line. You know what I mean? I mean, anybody who's seen the end of that show, I love it. Again, don't tweet at me or send me hate mail. I won't read it. But the last season is a fucking mess. So I like mystery box storytelling, but my real, like, if you talk about like creative process stuff, like it's sandbox writing. And this is the idea of like a little kid in a sandbox with all of his toys. You go to the playground. You've brought the toys with you that you have. You're not going to be able to go home and get more. There's no Deus Ex Machina. There's no bringing something in at the 11th hour that wasn't there already. It's when you start your story, you're in the sandbox, and all the toys you have are the characters you're going to have and the elements you're going to have for the rest of the story. And you have to figure out how to make all of that shit work and serve the plot, whatever your plot is, right? So you can't say, oh, I don't know how to get myself out of this corner I've written myself into. Oh, I'll bring in a completely different element out of left field. No, you can't do that. You're in the sandbox and you have the toys that you brought. So the planning comes in the very beginning. What am I bringing to the sandbox? What's my concept? Who are my characters? What's my setting? These are like essential items that you need to bring into the sandbox. Once you have all that tacked down, you hop in there and you just start letting shit play. You just see how it plays together. And when you run into a problem, you got to solve that problem with what you already have. And more often than not, the creativity of solving that problem with something that exists already in the story, something that readers are going to be familiar with because it's already been introduced, really makes your story feel like fateful. It makes it seem inevitable, right? Like when these like crazy turns happen, but they happen because of elements that have existed in the story since the beginning of it, it doesn't feel totally out of left field anymore. It feels like fateful. It feels like it was always supposed to happen that way. So that's like my writing trick, is the sandbox. I make the sandbox, I bring my toys, and I don't try to bring in any new toys. And if I do, I go all the way back to the very beginning of the story, and then I make sure I mention that toy was there all along. You know what I mean? That's like cheating a little bit.
That's interesting. That's wild. So, and I like the fact with that styling as a reader, because I love to read, hence why I'm at NYCC. So FYI, folks, every movie that you've been watching here of late, that whole shit, I've been reading it for years. I'm the asshole out there going, yeah. You know, that's not right.
The book was better.
Yeah, I catch myself, and one of my really close friends, we call him the Podfather. That's who got me into podcasting and everything. He always tells me the movies aren't made for me. They're not made for me.
No, they're not.
But they're made for the person who never saw it. And completely sidebar, did you know why Green Lantern, when it came out, had such an issue for so many people?
The Ryan Reynolds one? I guess that's the only one, isn't it?
Yeah. You know,
I actually have never seen that movie, weirdly enough.
I enjoyed it. So I will tell you, there are some great things about that movie. I don't care what anyone says. They had a great opportunity to introduce the entire space side of the DCU. Right. They were right there. They did a great job with a lot of that stuff. But a lot of people had issues with it because they introduced Hal Jordan and they said, hey, the Green Lantern isn't white. And they only knew the cartoon John Stewart Green Lantern, who was a Marine, who was black. That's the only one they knew.
They'd seen the TV show then or something.
They'd seen the TV show, and that was theirs. And so many people were like, that. Why would they change the race of the Green Lantern? They're just whitewashing it. And it wasn't the case.
Honestly, that whole discussion of changing the race of any fucking character, white to black, black to white, if you're one of these people that gets upset about that, knock it off. Like, seriously, stop it. It's like literally not fucking important. Like almost all the time, unless like the character is like a freedom fighting black, person who's smuggling people. Unless it's like Harriet fucking Tubman and you turn her into a white woman, like it kind of doesn't matter. Like I'm a writer, I write books. I do. Some of my characters are specific. Like Ruins of Mars is a lot more specific, like where they're from, because it's an international coalition of astronauts that go on this. It's like bringing together, people from South Korea, people from China, people from India. So it's like kind of important what their races are. But other than that, when I write books, I don't fucking tell you what the race of the character is unless it matters. And that's me saying that. If it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. So please, producers, I know you're listening, because why wouldn't you listen? This is a quality show.
This is what you do.
When you make one of my books into a movie, cast whoever the fuck you want. I don't care. You won't hear a peep from me.
And it's interesting. And what I was saying is you really knowing those characters from the beginning and knowing everything, as you said, all the toys in the sandbox, you truly get invested in what's there. So when something's taken away from it, character passes away, something breaks, something's not there.
You feel it.
you feel it because you know that that's not there anymore. There's
Yeah,
no
you
like,
do.
well, look at that. In the next room, there's two more of them. It's not
It's
one of those
not.
kind of
It's
situations.
true.
That's interesting. But I wanted you made a left turn. We kind of left turned into that. But what do you think about when people do it the other way? And when they made Akira, they put, or not Akira, but Ghost in the Machine,
Oh yeah,
and
right.
then
ScarJo.
and then with Scarlett Johansson, that was like, why? That's
I don't
such
even
a
know.
departure.
Why
That's one
did
of
they
those
do
ones
that?
like, why would you do that? That's such a departure from the character in any way, shape, or form.
I
Other than
know.
she
I
was
think
the hot name.
it boil. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting because it's like it does go both ways. It's like whitewashing is a serious issue that I see as I see the validity when people like point to it. Like that's a great example, Ghost in the Shell, of whitewashing. It's like, okay, that's a Japanese anime. All the
100%.
characters are Japanese in the anime, and all the spin-offs and sequels are in Japan starring Japanese characters. Why would you turn it into a white chick? And oh well, she's really an android, so it doesn't matter anyway, whatever. But it's like, if it's specific to the culture, if it's like specific to the character, then I don't think it's really cool to mess around with it unless you're trying to make a statement, right? Like Miles Teller, Spider-Man. They're making a statement with that, and I love it, and I'm here for it. Miles Morales. I'm actually Miles Teller. Jesus Christ. Okay, you can write me hate mail for that. That's fine. I'll read that hate mail.
Well, that's
No,
that's another
Miles
great
Morales.
example because,
They're making a statement though, right?
well, but he's in the comics that way.
Yeah, when they wrote the comics though.
What's more interesting is he's actually from Spider-Man 2099. Originally, so Miles Morales, the original character, is Spider-Man 2099, and here I'll geek out for a minute. His actual villain, number one villain, you talk about where stories really get into real life. At that point, very similar to player number one, corporations have taken over and are the ruling class, are the government, are in charge of everything. And that's who he's really, throughout 2099, who he's fighting with and who he's fighting against is these corrupt corporations that have really taken over the world, world. It's a very, because I knew it's got a name. Couldn't remember what it was though.
It's in a bunch of novels because it's like honestly what we're heading towards a little bit. So
we're right. We're right on that. We're right on to that line. When you go and the only thing missing is going to an event and getting arrested by the corporate prisons and their corporate judge, and you never see. Yeah, we're headed that way. But now, in all your writing, we kind of hinted at. And I'm going to mess Steve's name up. If you talk to him, tell him I apologize. It's Kubacki.
Kubacki. Or Kubacki.
Kubacki.
Let's say that. Yeah.
His story, and I'll give everybody kind of the wave tops. You can correct me. When this book gets written, I want people to go read this because I remember hearing this story growing up.
Oh wow!
It was kind of like an urban legend.
Dibs on the UP. He probably heard about it.
He's originally from New York, and then he traveled around. But he went missing. Yeah. Was missing for 15 months.
Mm-hmm.
Wakes up in like a field or something like that.
Yep.
With 0.0 recollection of where the last 15 months have gone.
Yeah.
Doesn't know what's happening. Very I grew up with the urban legend of the orange juice, the guy who took so much acid that he thought he was a glass of orange juice.
Oh, nice. That one? No, but I love it.
That was like an urban legend. So I always felt that story was an urban legend. Never, and heard it as a kid. Never put much more to it. It was a very. I think probably the first time I ever heard it was probably like an Unsolved Mysteries or a show like that.
Yeah. Missing 411 has done some stuff on it.
Right. How do you meet this person and then all of a sudden make that connection where they're comfortable enough for you to tell their story?
Okay, yeah. So I can talk about all this because it's like public knowledge more or less, or it's my side of the story. I knew Steve for like 6 years before I ever even learned that he was at the heart of this mystery, this unsolved mystery, which had itself spawned dozens of conspiracy theories. And I am a conspiracy theorist of the most harmless nature. Like you don't need to worry where I was on 1/6. I was at my house. I'm not that kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like I have a Q in my name.
No
But that's just because I was born with a Q in my name. Okay.
No QAnon shaman.
Don't at me. Yes, definitely not. I'm like the ancient aliens guy. I'm the Sasquatch guy. I live in the Pacific Northwest. I'm cryptids, sea monsters, giant squid, all this kind of stuff. So to learn that a close personal friend was at the heart of like dozens of really out there conspiracy theories was pretty fucking exciting. And then to learn the truth was even more exciting, especially with and I have to be careful, especially with the way that it went, because what you said about the setup is true. He went missing for 15 months. He woke up in a field. The bit about having no recollection of where he was for those missing 15 months, that's where the
story's hazy.
That's
There's a story there.
That's the reason why there's a book that's going to be coming out about it, because in fact he does know where he was for those missing 15 months.
Really?
He just wasn't in a place personally, professionally to speak about it publicly. So the book is going to tell you where he was for 15 months. Now I'm going to leave that where it is. I'm going to rewind. I'm going to dip back my toes back into what I can talk about, because I'm under contract. So we got to be super careful. So I'm going to go back. I knew Kubacki. I knew Steve for 6 years. I first met him because I was looking to, you talked about the guy who took so much acid that he thought he was a glass of orange juice. Well, I didn't ever think I was a glass of orange juice, but I sure did crack a couple of ceilings. I hit the dome and I'm like, what's out there? Something is going on in my reality that is more nuanced than what my professors taught me in college, what I learned growing up in my house. Like my understanding, my relationship with reality needed a bit of contextualization. And Steve Kubacki was a person who came into my sphere through those pursuits of trying to understand what it was the information that I was kind of like learning from the universe. I don't want to sound too woo-woo, but like,
no, you're not sounding woo-woo, but you can't brush that shit. Not on this show. We're all about that. We've had Patty Negri on here. We've had the only all Native American paranormal investigators unearthing the supernatural.
So you guys are into it. So you're into it.
We're into this. Like,
okay,
yeah. So I did. Once we start hitting this road, my show always jacks up. Once we.
I'm down. Listen, man. I have exited the workforce. I am now a stay-at-home dad. I run an indie publishing LLC, and I write books. So yes, I have done hallucinogens in the past. I went to the Evergreen State College in Olympia. People that know the Evergreen State College in Olympia are going to go, oh, yeah, okay, of course. It's in the woods. The mushrooms just grow in the woods. You pick them, you take them, you see things, you learn things. Anyway, I learned a lot. I saw a lot, changed my life. I met Steve. We don't use the word shaman because it's a really loaded term and it's been co-opted by a lot of like weird, like co-op. Yeah. You got to be careful with it now. I mean, how many people have you met who don't respect that though? You know what I mean? And don't understand they don't take any of that real reality into context. They're a shaman because they burn a little bit of sage every once in a while and they go and they sweat it out in a lodge. But like, so I met Steve to kind of start getting serious about really trying to take all of this stuff I'd experienced and learned and really try to like bring it down into something that's here and now in this place, in this time, which I understand time is relative, and this place and here and now, these are all like totally subjective words, but like to try to, as he calls it, scaffold. Take all this knowledge and all this stuff I've learned from taking copious amounts of hallucinogens, talking to various beings, and having information beamed into my head that I then can't articulate later because I'm a fucking caveman with a box of crayons and I just met Leonardo da Vinci and he taught me how to paint. You know what I mean? Like how do I start to take this knowledge and make it something I can use in my life? So that's how I met Steve. And he was massively helpful because he walked that road himself. And we did a lot of work together for 6 years. You know, we met almost weekly for 6 years, and we would do guided imagery, past life regression. We would do astral projection, all kinds of stuff. We were dipping our toes into all this. And I'll say from the book, because I wrote the line, I feel I can say it. He was the Don Juan to my Castaneda. He was the Morpheus to my Neo. And we became extremely close. And then my wife, who is an incredible lucid dreamer, like just unbelievable. She's a superhero, literally. She had a dream about him one night, and they'd never met at that point. They'd never met, even though Kubacki and I had been friends for 6 years. She had a dream about him, and in the dream, he said something to the effect of, "I need your help." And he was dressed as a monk. And so she woke up and she texted him because she was doing some editorial work on a piece that he had written, which you can buy now. It's called The Metamathematic Foundations of Reality. It's super interesting, very dense. He's a smart guy. You got to be smart too. But it's accessible enough. And she wrote him to say, like, "Hey, I had this dream about you, and have you ever been a monk?" And he goes something to the effect of like, "Oh no, but time's not linear in the dream world, so you could have been talking to like a future version of myself," like a very, very, very Kubacki answer. And she wasn't super satisfied with that answer, so she Googled him, Stephen Kubacki monk, and there it was. Like, there it is. When you Google him, there it is. It's the disappearance. It's all the theories. It's the YouTube videos of people theorizing. It's the missing 411 piece. It's all of it right there. Was it angels? Was it aliens? Was it the Michigan Triangle? God, I wish Dibbs was here to talk about the Michigan Triangle. Like, was it?
He sent us a message because he couldn't get back, and he says, trying to revive the squirrels.
That's funny. You need a Ouija board, Dibbs, but like a little one, a tiny Ouija board. But so I'm like, and then she texts me, calls me actually, and like, "Did you know that Kubacki was, and goes through the rundown." I'm at work. I'm like, "Fuck no, I didn't know about that." Like, I'm like fucking flummoxed over here, and I'm in the and like, the entire time that I'm working with Kubacki, I'm writing the Ruins of Mars. So when you read the Ruins of Mars, and there's a lot of metaphysical shit in that book, please understand that I'm not just dicking around. Like, these ideas that are explored in the Ruins of Mars, they come from a place that's rooted in work I was doing as a person as well with Steve Kubacki, not for nothing. So I go to him next time I see him and I'm like, "Steve, what the fuck, man? Where were you?" And he just tells me, he just says it. He just tells me where he was. This is what I was doing. This is what happened. And he lays it all out on the table. And he says, "Now, that you've heard, I'll tell you, but you got to help me write the book," because he was aware of my work as a writer and my flexibility as a writer, because I'm a flexible writer, and I read a lot, so I know how to emulate what I read. And so we sit down together, we start writing the book. It's a series. The book is finished. It's really good. I can say that with conviction. We've co-authored it because there's so much of him in the book that it only seemed right that he should be co-author. It's told from my point of view. It's told from my point of view, but it's a series of conversations between Steve and I, where we talk through the events of his life, because everything, when you read the story, everything was leading to that disappearance. It was inevitable, just like the sandbox, which is part of why I was so attracted to telling the story. It was inevitable. When you get to the point when he disappears in the book, it was always going to happen when you know about his life, when you know about his childhood and the way he was brought up. So it's a series of conversations between Steve and I. And then there are these narrative vignettes where I get to flex my writing, muscle where it's information he's given me about his life that's told in a story style. So it goes back and forth between that. It's like a story. It's like we're having a conversation, and then if you can imagine like a TV show, it fades to the story. We do a flashback and we see a bit of story, and then it comes back to us talking and then back into the story. And that's how it unfolds. And it covers everything. It covers his childhood. It covers his high school years, college years, and it covers the disappearance, and it covers what happened, and it covers his re-emergence and his reintegration into society after the events of his disappearance. And it's a fucking banger of a read, and it is very unexpected. You really can't guess. Like all these people that have been out there saying that it's angels, the Michigan Triangle, that it was aliens. I love all that shit. Please, I do. But you cannot expect what really is the truth. And there have been people poking around, while we worked on this project for years, investigative journalists who borderline harassed us because they wanted to get to the heart of it. They wrote, former friends of his. They wrote ex-girlfriends. They really exercised their First Amendment right to poke around. And if they're watching this right now, Susan, the book's coming out soon, and you get all the answers you ever wanted. And
yes,
you'll
Susan.
Yeah, Susan. But honestly, your determination was inspiring. But sorry, I beat you to the punch. So it's gonna be.
I think that's what's so fascinating though about this is he's the only person that knows. Now you do, obviously.
Yeah, I know.
Now you do, but I'm just saying, for all those years, it wasn't like, dude, he was sleeping on my couch.
No,
I don't know.
Oh yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? It was never anything like that came out where anyone was like, dude,
no one's ever come forward, is what you're saying.
Nobody was ever
actually what. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. I got pictures of me and him at the local roadhouse, throwing back a couple. I don't know what everybody's so surprised about.
And to sweeten it a little bit more, sweeten the pot. And again, I think I'm safe here. It's like his mother hired a private investigator, so there were people looking for him beyond the police who were looking for him, not for nothing. A huge search effort, because where he went missing, and again, I can talk about this as well because this is all public knowledge. He went missing on Lake Michigan. His skis and his knapsack were found in the middle of the lake, or in a very remote area after a huge snowstorm. There were some footprints, but according to reports, it looked as if he had just walked out of existence. There were some footprints and then nothing. Massive search effort. Planes, helicopters, divers, dogs. They went under the ice and they couldn't find him. So when you say, there's nobody who was like, oh, he was just on my couch, whatever. It's like, this is like a real deal unsolved mystery. It's like one of the, I don't want to say it's one of the last unsolved mysteries because there are more unsolved mysteries, but it's like, it's a legitimate unsolved mystery, except for we're solving it. We'll solve it for you. I'll solve it for you. We just need for our publisher to pony up and make it happen, because the book is done and it's being shopped around to publishers right now. And all that's going to take is one of them to get the cojones to say, let's do this thing.
How would somebody not, I mean, for him to say nope, I'm letting my story out here. The truth is going to come out somehow.
This is what I was getting at earlier with my weird comments about if you're not a famous celebrity's fucking kid or a basketball player, it's extremely hard to get a book published. Even if you are at the heart of an unsolved mystery, it is hard to get a publisher to take a risk on you, because they are so risk averse that they have created a situation wherein Amazon self-publishing is now annihilating them. I'll do a little bit of ranting here because I've been writing for 10 years and I've never had a publisher give me the time of day except for one time. And I won a Best Indie Book Award, not for nothing. But this timidity in the publishing world is what has led to its ultimate reduction in footprint. this like, oh, well, we don't know if you're somebody, so you can't tell a story. But you know who can tell a story? Stephen King's son. It's like, can he though? Can he really? I mean, just because he's Stephen King's son.
Joe Horn's pretty damn, or Jonah Hill.
Yeah,
not Jonah
yeah,
Hill.
Joe Hill, Horns.
Joe Hill.
A lot like
Horn.
it, but that's fine. Whatever. It's very familiar. When I read it, I was like, hey, I've seen this before.
Do you think
a group? We're telling a story with flashbacks, and it's a group of childhood friends, and they've got a dark secret. And then when they're older, the dark secret's coming back again, and we keep flashing back to when they were a fun little band of kids. And it's all very familiar, but whatever. I don't want to get into a whole thing because Joe Hill.
But I was going to say,
he might be my best friend someday. I don't know.
But I was going to say that, I mean, if you look at it that way, every superhero story is just copying Gilgamesh.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. But the difference is Stan Lee is not Gilgamesh's author's son. You know,
this is true. Well, we're all, so it's all could be. We all could be.
And I didn't mean to swipe. No, but I didn't mean to swipe. Take a swipe at Joe Hill. It was more a swipe at the publishing industry. The way that they are like, they're just like, ooh, I don't know, the Steve Kubacki guy. It's like, fucking Google him, for Christ's sake. He's ready to tell you where he was. This book will be a bestseller. It will be a bestseller. You know, so we'll get
now.
There.
What about?
I'm not worried about it.
And I know that, you know, being on this podcast, this is like episode, like we're pushing almost 150 episodes. I mean, this is an impressive place to be. You know, we know what we're doing here. Like, do you think maybe, because like I said, I remember hearing this story. Do you think some people have forgotten what the story is in that part of the issue?
I mean, maybe, but it pops up, you know. Like I was recently watching like an episode of Ancient Aliens. Ancient Aliens, if you're listening, have me on. I got ideas. Where they were talking about portals. It was like an episode about portals. And I'm watching it, and then suddenly I'm hearing Steve's name, and they're talking about his disappearance. So it's like his case gets brought up. You know, it gets recycled. And then the other side of it is in our pitch to publishers and agents, it starts out with Google Steve Kubacki and then come back and read the rest of this pitch. We'll wait, you know, because it's like all you got to do is go out there and just Google him, Kubacki, and you will find a trove of incredible stuff on the internet of people trying to figure out what happened to this guy, including some really good investigative journalism that ran into a wall because nobody would talk to her. But like, people have been trying, like crackpots have been trying. Susan, sorry, I know it's so shitty. You work so hard. People have been trying, and
sorry, Susan.
And it's so, you know, like honestly though, like for all of my like ire that I have for publishing, traditional publishing, like 98.8% of that comes from the fact that like I've written like 9 books, and every time I go to like query an agent, I actually haven't done that in a while, especially since I started my own publishing company. I'm like, fuck you guys, I don't need you anymore, which is true. I don't. But like, because again, you know, Amazon's kind of taken over the world. But like, there was a whole time in my life where it was like basically like if I didn't have like grit, which I do, I would have walked away from writing because I would have thought no one wanted to hear my stories because a small group of people, kind of gatekeepery type people, were like, well, your last name's Quarles. It sounds weird and it's not you know, King. So sorry. We don't want to read your manuscript. The Kubacki book is going to get published. It will. Somebody's going to smell money and they're going to jump on it and they're going to be
I'm fascinated. I'm so fascinated.
I have no anxieties about that. Like, that book's coming out. It's going to come out from a major publisher, and you're going to see it at like Barnes and Nobles. You're going to see it like wherever. You're going to see it in airports. It's a perfect airport book for when you're riding on a plane and you just want to turn pages. Like, and it's going to make you think, and it's going to challenge you, and it's going to like honestly kind of fuck with you a little bit in a good way. So I'm super excited for it to come out. Like, also because I worked really hard on it. Like, it's like a good book that I worked really hard on making sure reads well and is good. So, you know, I mean, I write a lot of crazy stuff under my name. That's personally what I write and what I like. And I stand by all of it. And I think it's quality fiction. This is really good. And it's real, you know, it's nonfiction.
Dylan, I'm mind boggled right now. when you started to get into, hey, psychedelics and all those kind of things, like I feel like we should be talking about microdosing, because I know you're out that way and you guys love your
where I live.
microdosing. You guys love your microdosing out there.
Where I live in my county, which I will not name because the man, we have decriminalized all of that. So it grows in the woods. It grows from the ground every fall. We're coming up on the season when I'm going to go picking stuff. I'm going to go foraging here pretty soon.
Like it's just there.
It's there to help you.
I'm still of the mindset, if it grows naturally, like, everything in moderation. It's already been put here to take care of us. Remember, aspirin comes from tree bark, folks.
Well, and you as a vet, incredible work is being done right now for vets. For our woefully underserved vets. Yeah. Incredible work.
I have a good buddy who, under the care of a doctor, he didn't just do it himself, under the care, and because his brother's a doctor, he did microdosing because he had real bad PTSD and was in a real bad depression funk and was having issues and didn't want to take anything that was going to be highly addictive, or was going to every so many months going to have to take go get his liver checked and his kidney checked. Look, Dibs is still watching. Oh, we love you, Dibs. VA has made strides, absolutely, and they're starting to get more into these things and these ideas. But I find it very interesting because it's like anything else. If I went out and I drank a gallon of booze, of red wine, that's not going to be healthy for me. But we all know that a glass of red wine is
good
safe
for your heart.
It gets into like I had somebody say to me not long ago, I grew up Catholic, and they were like, "Oh, I can't believe everybody drank out of the same cup." Well, did you know that red wine kills all that shit?
And it's a silver cup anyway.
Yeah, like that shit's all dead.
The idea of the fact that you could maybe twice a year, when you really need it, when you're in a really bad spot. Like, I don't want to get I don't talk about this stuff a lot personally, publicly, because it's deeply personal, but I lost a daughter and I would not have been able to, in 2019, her name was Rainier, and I would not have been able to come back from that without the help of these naturally occurring funguses. Just grows by my library in my town, folks. I didn't have to go to some weird company that makes stuff in some crazy factory in India or something and is a massive distillation of yada 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 and is incredibly addictive or whatever. Look at the opioid epidemic.
Absolutely.
I didn't have to do any of that shit. I just went to the library at the right season. I knew what I was looking for, and it was massively, massively helpful, like to the point of I can't overstate how helpful it was. And I'm not talking about it's not like every day I wake up and I take my daily amount of antidepressants or whatever. I'm not on antidepressants. And this is no shade to anybody who is, I did this a few times with intention, at intervals when it was necessary. And I went into it with intention, and I came out of it with a feeling of having served those intentions. And that was really helpful in navigating, frankly,
through those feelings, and emotions.
Incredible stuff, talk about, just like stuff that makes you question your will to live, and
Can't even imagine.
It grows in the ground. It's one thing. It's not multiple things put together by people you'll never meet in a location that you'll never know, monetized by people who own yachts and jets and multiple mansions and influence elections with dark money. It grows in the ground by your public library, people. So tell me how that's bad. I get that without a little bit of guidance, it can be dangerous. So can a lot of things. So can alcohol. I don't need a therapist there with me if I go to the store and I drink an entire gallon of whiskey, but I can do it because the law says I can. So it's like, I get that there's a lot of work still to be done with like kind of like acclimating people to the realities of these things and how helpful they can be. But like, I'm a huge advocate. And like I said, where I live, it's decriminalized. There's a thriving psychedelic community here that focuses on the rehabilitation, the healing properties of these things. Not like nobody's like we're jamming out. We're gonna like listen to the Grateful Dead for like 8 hours and like dance.
It's not a Fish concert every day.
No, I mean, I'm sure that does happen for sure, because why not? I mean, honestly, it grows in the ground. Fuck, it has multiple uses. Sue me. But like, they're really focused on healing, and it is healing, and it's there when you need it, but you don't need it every day. And that's what I think is so fucking amazing about it. It's like, I lost my daughter. I can say that without breaking down in tears, because at certain intervals during my grief journey, I used these naturally occurring properties to help me navigate and contextualize really intense emotions.
Wow.
And I haven't in months and months and months. I haven't needed it. I'm fine. I'm going along. Like, I'll have a beer if I'm feeling a little stressed out. I have a son now. He's amazing. He's my guy. He's like 10 months old. I love him to death. I told him the story of his sister the other day. I didn't die. I didn't go to pieces, because these things have helped me, and they can help you too. And I don't honestly know how we got way off onto this subject, but like, honestly, people,
welcome to my world.
Petition your lawmakers. You know what I mean? They'll listen. Petition your local lawmakers. Get involved. This shit is good for everybody, unless you're a evil robot lizard person. And if you're one of those people, there's no helping you anyway, and you shouldn't listen to those people if you're not one of them. So,
okay, we're gonna make a left turn for a minute. Lizard people, I need yes or no answers. Lizard people, okay. Yes or no. Lizard people, yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. Earth round or flat?
Round, 100%, please.
Okay. Want to make sure. I've had an investigator on it. Sasquatch, yes or no? Sasquatch, yes or no?
I live in the Pacific Northwest. It would be sacrilegious if I said no. So yes, of course, yes.
Look, where I live at, not far from where I live at in Albany, they had one of the biggest sightings in Whitehall, New York.
Oh yeah. It's
that's a very famous one. Which is also interesting because Whitehall is it gets more publicity for that and less for the fact that it claims to be the birthplace of the U.S. Navy, which is very odd to me. It's very
odd. Sasquatch is sexier than the Navy. I mean, is that a surprise to anybody?
Sasquatch and Navy bell bottoms would be very interesting to me. Ooh. Navy dungarees, the bell bottoms could be a thing.
The smell.
Let me see. Any other conspiracy? I know you. I'm going to say aliens. I already know that's a yes for you.
Big yes.
That's a yes for me. Paranormal.
Drake's equation. Come on, Drake's equation. I mean, they exist.
What is Drake's equation?
That's that's like the one that says like. It's the equation that was. It's not for whether or not they visited here. It's for whether or not they exist. Period. Like based off the number of suns that we can see in the night sky. It's called Drake's equation. It basically says like, okay, with the parameters that we know from our solar system, applying those to all the other suns we see, there should be something like 10 billion civilizations that we can see in the night sky, kind of thing.
Like all the other Goldilocks planets.
Yeah, exactly.
No, absolutely. Like you can't tell me that there's. I always go with, don't tell me that you think that much of yourself.
Yeah,
that
right.
You think there's nobody else out there. Mm-hmm. And guess what? We've already had rocks land here that they've checked that had funguses and bacteria from outer space. Guess what? Those funguses and bacteria are alien, and those are aliens on this.
I love that concept, the pollination idea. The idea that like any habitable planet is basically just a smorgasbord of other things from other like that's just
that ended up there.
Ferments growth, from something that might have lived there.
Now, I got to tell you one of my personal conspiracy. So, like, there's a great comedian. I can't think of his name right now. He was on. He does a lot of voice work, but he has a great line about, he doesn't believe in all the conspiracy theories, but anybody who doesn't believe in at least something and thinks the government's batting 1,000 just doesn't make sense to him. But
No.
I have a personal conspiracy theory that kind of goes back to what you're talking about. And folks, if you're still sticking with us, make sure you're checking out djqfiction.com, getting his books, and I appreciate it. I have one that I still believe that the whole going to, like, remember when they were saying, hey, heroin is cheaper than weed, and that was going around and everybody. Did you ever notice that Afghanistan is it's the heroin place? That's the poppy field place.
Right.
We took over that country. We had our forces were there. That shit didn't slow down.
That
shit
even
didn't stop. And I always tell people, like, did you ever stop and think, like, people are like, well, no, it's fentanyl. I don't give a shit what it is. But listen to me. It never slowed down. It never stopped. That was the place where it was all coming from. That was the major spot. Yes, there's places in China and other countries, blah, blah, blah. And now if you go to Mexico, the Mexican cartels have their own poppy fields. They've taken it over down there. But think about that for a minute.
Yeah,
it
right.
Never slowed down and it never stopped.
It wasn't disrupted by the war on terror, which should have, at the very least, disrupted it.
Like, it should have been like, oh, but I never saw any junkies out on the streets. They were all still doing the Hey Ron Lean and all that.
The war on drugs was never supposed to actually be a war on drugs. It was a war on poor people.
Oh God!
Our government, loves drugs. Drugs are great. The reason that they don't like mushrooms that grow in the ground
can't tax them.
Well, they don't make you dumb. They don't make you sick. They don't make you rob your neighbor. They don't make you good for basically anything in the government's eyes. In fact, they make you less reliant on those systems because you see the farcical nature of giving your entire self to a system that doesn't even give a shit if you live or die. You're just a number. You're a worker. You're a worker bee. And so drugs like heroin, great. There's potential there to maybe get you into the prison industrial complex with something like heroin.
Oh, look, don't even get me onto that one. Like corporate prisons, and one of my favorite ones that I
for
find
profit.
So cute. One of the ones I found so cute was finally California, Mr. as far left as we're going to get. And we are the liberal bastion. Did you know that it was last year they finally outlawed corporate prisons because Northern California, all their ICE facilities were actually corporate run.
I heard about
facilities.
This.
And
I remember reading
which
about
was
that.
More interesting to me was if you go back to when Bernie Sanders first was running and lost to Obama, the first time we really knew who Bernie was. The biggest thing on the docket at that point was he was talking about corporate prisons, and then people finally started going, hey, what is this? And they started educating themselves and realizing that the largest lobbying group on the entire planet or in the United States is the corporate prison system. If you didn't know that, folks, that's the largest. I've said it a million times on here. And he got it to where they finally they were going to pass a bill and sign a bill that said they were going to be outlawed across this country. You watch the stocks for those companies crash because it was like, hey, we're getting rid of these. The states are going to, this is coming. And as soon as he dropped out of the race, it was gone. Nobody talked about it. Nobody wanted to hear about it anymore. It's one of those things that for me is, and they always do it the same way. It's small communities that lost textile industries that they move these guys in and say, hey, we're going to create jobs in your community. We're going to build a prison here. People will move to your community because they need to be closer to their families that are incarcerated forever. Oh, and guess what? Inside of these prisons, we're going to start a textile industry that we're going to pay people pennies on the dollar, slave labor wages, and there's nothing they can do about it. But guess who's buying those things? That McDonald's kid, that kid's uniform from McDonald's, that's where that came from. That was made in a corporate prison, and there's nothing any of us can do about it. And they go, what? and then you start finding out the people that own them. Michael Jordan is actually a huge owner in corporate prisons. Huge.
Whoa.
That's where
I didn't know that.
Michael Jordan, big owner in corporate prisons. He caught a lot of heat for it when he started buying into these places and putting his money in there. He is a big owner. I don't know if he still owns stock. I couldn't say he does, but that was something he caught a ton of heat for, was the fact that he had major holdings in these things. This is something that
I remember hearing about Rick Scott. Rick Scott. You asked me about lizard people, and I said yes. Rick Scott is a lizard person. I mean, I don't know if he actually is or isn't. And when I say I believe in lizard people, I kind of mean like human beings that are so inhuman that I hope to God that they're actually lizards. Because if not, Jesus Christ, what did your mother do to you, sir? So Rick Scott, you, sir, are a lizard person. And he, when he was governor of Florida, he would have these fucking private prison people over for dinner at his fucking house. These owners of these corporations, and it's like,
isn't it crazy?
It's like you profit and traffic in human beings and
that's what
indentured servitude. Like you're the biggest human traffickers in the country, and yet we're all going to be like, oh, look over here, ping pong comet pizza or whatever. And it's like, no, look at that fucking guy. He's having these fucking monsters over for dinner. They're literally slavers. They're modern slavers. Oh, somebody got busted with a little bit of weed in some fucking red state, and now they're going to be making license plates or McDonald's uniforms for 25 fucking years for cents on the dollar. It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
We could absolutely get it. So and I'm sorry for the left turn, folks, if you're still hanging with us. This is something that always gets me fired up. I stand by, I am socially liberal, fiscally conservative. Don't spend my money on dumb shit and leave people alone to do what they want to do. If they ain't hurting somebody else, why does it matter to you? So we'll get into any. I know we're pushing the books. We got the 8 books. So they can go to djqfiction.com. You can look Dylan up. You can look Dylan up on LinkedIn. He is Dylan James Qualres on LinkedIn. The Instagram is a little bit longer. It's God, where's my notes? See, we got to talking. My notes all closed on me. Tell the Instagram, Dylan.
It is. Now I'm gonna have to look it up too because it is long. It's to do with Rainier Augusta. So let me just pop that up.
So here I got it. I got it all right here. It's Rainier, RAINIER _ Augusta, like the golf course, _ Indy _ pub, like a bar. You can also find him on TikTok at Arthur, or not Arthur, author _ Dylan James Qualres, and that's QUARLES for Qualres. His Facebook, Dylan James Qualres. Again, the website where you can get all the books at is djqfiction.com. He does like to throw tires around also. He let me know that. He likes to push tires.
That's how I get pumped up for podcasts like Batman and BVS. Like Ben Affleck, I hit a tire with a sledgehammer to get really to get yoked for these podcasts.
Got to get himself ready. Don't log off after this. I got to talk to you about one thing afterwards.
Alrighty.
But as we do on every single show, every single episode, it's always the same thing. The guest always gets the last. Oh, wait a second. I almost forgot something. Also, on my end, I almost forgot to advertise myself. Look at that shit. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you're finding me through Dylan, please make sure you follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. All of it is the Above the Bar podcast. Make sure you have that the above it, and you'll see my ravagingly handsome face on our logo. The Above the Bar podcast. Make sure you give us a like, share this with other people. If you haven't started following us on a podcast platform, make sure you follow us. Take your neighbor's phone, follow it. If you take the bus, take some random stranger's phone out of their hand and make sure you go ahead and open up their podcast app and have them follow us. They'll love you for it. They'll really, truly appreciate it. Make sure you do all that. But as we always do there, Mr. Dylan, the guest gets the final word. So what is the final word for today?
The final word for today is psilocybin.
Alrighty, folks. Be sure to push your stool in.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation. found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.